welcome to Quick Course Digest. Today, we're diving into a really critical topic, supplier relationship management. In a world that seems to be constantly in flux, the way a business manages its suppliers, well, that can be the one thing that separates winning from losing. So, let's get right into it. Okay, so to really get why this matters so much now, we've got to start with the world we're all living in. I mean, let's be honest. The last few years have been more than just a little bump in the road. They've completely redrawn the map of how global business works. I mean, just think back for a second. Remember seeing all those empty shelves, getting your packages delayed, again, emails, prices for just, normal stuff going through the roof? Well, that wasn't just some random fluke. It was a massive stress test that showed just how fragile our global supply chains really are. It all started as a health crisis, right? But it morphed into a supply chain crisis almost overnight. The pandemic wasn't just some short-term hiccup, it was a total game changer. It permanently rewired economies, supplier networks, and even the simple ways we shop and live. It basically forced everyone to rethink how we move stuff around the entire planet. And it wasn't just that. On top of the pandemic, you have these huge geopolitical shifts like Brexit, creating all new kinds of trade barriers and logistical nightmares. All of a sudden, companies had to ask, where are we getting our materials from? And they had to learn to navigate a world with a whole new and, frankly, unpredictable set of rules.
And then there's the big one, the climate crisis. As a global community, we're finally starting to take this seriously. And this isn't just about good PR anymore. It's leading to actual laws. Companies are now on the hook for the entire carbon footprint of their products, from the moment a seed is planted to the box arriving at your door. And that's forcing a massive rethink of how we use our planet's resources.
So you see where this is going, right? This brand new, super complex world, it demands a totally new way of thinking. You just can't treat suppliers like they're interchangeable parts anymore. You need a new philosophy. And that philosophy is called Supplier Relationship Management, or SRM. Now, this isn't just another corporate buzzword. It's a really fundamental strategic shift. It's about getting away from the simple act of buying stuff and moving toward building powerful, long-term, collaborative partnerships that create real value for everyone involved. And I mean, the difference is just night and day. The old way, it was adversarial. It was all about that one transaction and squeezing every single penny out of the supplier. The new way is all about collaboration and the relationship. It's about having an open, transparent dialogue and building the partnership up because you realize your success is completely tied together. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? The pandemic showed us this in the most brutal way possible. When those supply chains snapped, businesses learned a very hard lesson. You can't just find a new source for a critical part overnight. It's often impossible. Your supplier's resilience truly is your resilience. So what does one of these strong SRM relationships actually look like? Well, turns out it's built on the exact same things any strong partnership is. Trust, transparency, open communication, shared goals, and real mutual support. Having each other's backs through the good times and the bad. And listen, this isn't just some nice theory. Take a look at Xerox. They did something that sounds kind of crazy. They strategically shrunk their massive supplier base. And what happened? The result was amazing. They got lower transaction costs, way better service, and even better prices. All of that came from building deeper, more meaningful relationships with a smaller, core group of partners. Okay, so you're probably wondering, how do I actually do this? How do I put this philosophy into practice? Well, you need a playbook, a strategic playbook. A really solid SRM strategy doesn't just happen by magic. You build it systematically, and it really boils down to 4 clear, actionable steps. You segment your suppliers, you define what success actually looks like, you manage risks before they become disasters, and you actually invest in your partner's success. First things first, you can't treat every supplier the same way. It's just not practical. There's a classic tool called the Kraljic model that helps you sort them out. It's basically a simple grid that helps you map suppliers based on 2 simple questions. How much risk is involved with them, and how much does their product impact our profits? The answers tell you exactly who your most strategic partners are and where you need to focus your energy. All right, step 2, you've got to measure what matters. This means setting up clear, key performance indicators, or KPIs. Now, things like on-time delivery and quality rates, those are the obvious ones. But you should also be looking at things like responsiveness or even how much they contribute to your innovation. The key is to create shared scorecards so that everybody, you and your supplier, knows exactly what the target is. Now, the key word for this step is proactive. You can't wait for a supplier to fail before you do something about it. You need to be constantly on the lookout for risk. Is your most important supplier financially stable? Are they operating in a politically volatile region? What about their cybersecurity? You have to have backup plans ready to go before a crisis ever hits. Now, of course, trying to run a modern SRM strategy with a bunch of spreadsheets and phone calls, it's just not going to work. This entire playbook gets supercharged by a whole new generation of digital tools. Probably the single biggest change that technology brings to the table is a shift from being reactive to being predictive. So instead of just looking back and analyzing what went wrong yesterday, we can now use data to intelligently forecast what's likely to happen tomorrow. It's a total game changer. So what does that actually look like? Well, data analytics can uncover these hidden patterns in supplier performance that you'd never see otherwise. Artificial intelligence, or AI, can help build agile supply chains by forecasting future demand with incredible accuracy. And machine learning can sift through massive streams of data to predict a potential disruption, like a delivery delay, before it even happens. But technology isn't just about prediction. It also helps build that foundation of any great partnership, trust. And it does that by creating levels of transparency and security that were just impossible before. For example, take blockchain. Companies like Walmart Canada are using it to create the shared, unchangeable record for all their logistics. This lets everyone involved track shipments and automate payments with absolute confidence. It cuts out disputes and just builds trust into the system. And integrated platforms do the same thing by creating one single source of truth for all communication. All right, so let's look ahead. Where is all of this going? What are the big forces that are going to shape supplier relationships in the coming years? The future of SRM is really being shaped by three powerful trends. It's becoming more sustainable, with new laws holding companies responsible for things like human rights and environmental impact deep within their supply chains. It's more ethical, with a huge focus on fair labor and diversity. And it's becoming radically traceable. Consumers and regulators want to know the whole story of a product, and technology is finally making that possible. And that brings us to the final critical question. The next global disruption. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. By truly embracing this strategic, partnership-first approach to SRM, you can transform your supply chain from your biggest potential weakness into your absolute greatest source of resilience, innovation, and competitive advantage.